right, good morning, everyone. We're going to be starting shortly. As soon as Mark points at me and says we're going. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mission Viejo Memorial Day ceremony. Please rise as we welcome the U.S. Marine Corps Color Guard Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the national anthem sung by Colette Lush and Invocation by Chaplain John Stephen. Hand over heart, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Post the colors. I'm going to pray according to my faith. I ask you to join me as far as your faith allows. Heavenly Father, I thank you for a day set aside to remember sacrifice. Lord, a day to honor those whose courage and selflessness led them to pay the ultimate price so that we could enjoy the freedoms we have today. And Lord, I know it's a day that opens wounds for those who've lost. And so I pray that you would meet those who are in their mourning, in their grief, in their pain. I pray that you would meet them, God, and fill those gaps left by their loss. And I pray that they would sense your love and your peace. Lord, that you provide for them, protect them. And God, in the spirit of sacrifice and selflessness, I pray that we would be an extension of your love to those around us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Good morning. Please be seated. And thank you for joining us today as we pay homage to the brave men and women who sacrificed their lives in the service of our country. As parents, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, grandparents and grandchildren, friends and neighbors, we're united in honoring, remembering, and thanking those who protect our homeland and our freedom and our democracy. My name is Frank Urey, and I'm honored this year to be the mayor of Mission Viejo. And on behalf of my fellow council colleagues, I'd like to welcome you to the city's Memorial Day service, which candidly is one of the best services in all of Orange County. It's always wonderful to be here. It's my privilege now to introduce you to our Congresswoman, Mimi Walters. She has served as an elected representative for the state of California from the 45th Assembly District since 2015. Go ahead and come on up. And before that, she represented us in the California State Assembly and served as mayor of Laguna Niguel. She has many responsibilities today, and as you can imagine, she has a lot of events to go to, so we're thrilled to have her here for a few minutes early this morning. Congresswoman.
Thank you, Mayor Frank Urey, for that introduction. I'm grateful to be with you today on this Memorial Day. It is such an honor to represent California's 45th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. I've always believed Congress has two great responsibilities, and those are providing for our national defense and ensuring our veterans receive the care that they have earned. My father is a U.S. Marine, and I have full appreciation for the service and sacrifice our veterans have given this country, which is why this is so important to me. Last week, you may have heard some troubling comments and reports from the VA. Make no mistake, caring for our veterans is one of the most important responsibilities that government has. There is no doubt that the VA is failing our veterans and it is in need of serious reform, but in some instances, our office can help navigate through its bureaucratic red tape. Please don't ever hesitate to reach out to our office if you're having a problem with the VA and we can help. I am committed to ensuring that our veterans who have risked life and limb receive the highest quality of care. On Thursday, I visited Arlington National Cemetery with some of my colleagues in Congress. Beneath each of those tombstones lies a brave man or woman who served our nation. A powerful reminder that these men and women gave everything to protect our freedom. The ultimate sacrifice, their lives. We laid a wreath in Section 60, the final resting place for soldiers, sailors, and Marines who died in the most recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Section 60 is the final resting place for many of the men and the women on these banners. In many ways, these 14 acres seem just like the other parts of Arlington National Cemetery, but in powerful ways, this portion of the cemetery is very different from the others. This part of the cemetery is home to those who have died in the most recent conflicts, and we are reminded that our fight for freedom is not just in the past. It is because of them, because of their service, because of their sacrifice, that we live in the most free nation on earth. Today, we pause to pay tribute to them, and we thank those who still serve. Arlington National Cemetery is far from us today, but the banners hanging here are powerful reminders for us right here at home. These banners tell the moving stories of men and women who were willing to give everything they had for their country, and I would like to thank all of those who have made them possible. Telling their stories is so incredibly important. These are fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, uncles, aunts, colleagues, and friends who came forward to answer the call of duty. We must pass their stories on to our children so they too will understand the sacrifices made in the name of freedom. Telling their stories is one of the best ways to honor these veterans and to keep their memories alive. Thank you for inviting me here today, and thank Mission Viejo for hosting this event and displaying these banners. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Congresswoman Walters, for your comments and bringing a lot of things home for us as far as understanding how much people have sacrificed. I'm sitting back as I'm listening to her comments, and look where we are. I mean, this is just an amazing area. It's an amazing place for us to grow and live, and it's because of the sacrifices of those who came before us that allow us to live in such a wonderful city with such wonderful freedoms. I'd also like to introduce you to those joining me on the stage. We're privileged to have Sergeant Major Tony Sammartino, retired United States U.S. Marine Corps, speaking today, as well as Mr. Mike Chamberlain. They'll both be speaking a little bit later. And I'd also like to thank the Marine Corps Color Guard and Chaplain Stevens for your moving invocation. Since returning from a deployment in Afghanistan, Lieutenant Commander Stevens has served as chaplain of the Mission Viejo's adopted headquarters battalion, 1st Marine Division. And I think anybody will tell you in Orange County, we have the best volunteers in Mission Viejo when it comes to honoring and helping those of our men and women in service. The city is proud to have the opportunity to support these great men and women of the battalion through the countless hours of volunteer work by the members of our Marine Adoption Committee. If you're not a member or if you haven't had a chance to help them, make sure you seek them out, especially some of the folks over in the booths over here. Get to know them because they're part of the bedrock of volunteerism in Mission Viejo. I'd also like to thank Colette Lush for sharing her inspired rendition of our national anthem. You may recognize her from the final season of American Idol. She's also a graduate locally of Tesoro High School, and we are happy she could be here with us today. It's also an honor to serve with the City Council with just a wonderful group of colleagues that we have. I'd like to introduce some of them to you. First, we have Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Bucknam, and Councilmember Greg Raths, Councilman Ed Sachs, and Councilwoman Kathleen Schlicht. Each year, it's with great pride that the City of Mission Viejo displays the American Heroes tribute banners that you see in the Kershaw Garden behind me. The images and thoughts on these banners remind us of what this country stands for and the price that we have paid for our freedom. As President Ronald Reagan so eloquently said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, it must be protected, and handed on from one to the next so that they can do the same. The men and women of our military are an absolute testament to this belief. The American Heroes Tribute Banners honors the U.S. military personnel who have given their lives in the war against terror in Iraq and Afghanistan. Designed by the families themselves, these banners displayed across the nation are a way to honor, preserve, and celebrate the soldiers that fight for our freedom. I encourage everyone to spend some time in the Banner Garden after the ceremony. Take the time and take a look and learn about some of these special people, especially an individual like Lance Corporal Fabry, a member of the Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division. The night before he died, he said, "There are heroes and there are legends. Heroes are remembered, legends never die." I agree. Heroes like this young man and the many who served before him live on in our hearts, and it's our duty, it's our responsibility to make sure that we let those who come after us understand the sacrifices that they've done. I mean, when you think about it, everybody right now who is 50 or older, when they were born, they were closer to World War I than they are to today. That's how much people's lives have spanned. That's how much we have seen in our lifetime. And almost 1 million military service personnel have given their lives over the past century to make sure we have the freedoms that we have. That's a statement, that's a testament, but it's also a message of responsibility. We need to make sure that as we teach those younger than ourselves, teach those that come after us, about the sacrifices, what democracy means, what freedom means, what a republic means, and what the greatest form of government in the world means. It's our responsibility for those who have either lived it or know about it or been a part of it. It's our absolute responsibility to pass those on, those values on, to those who come after us. Because as Reagan said, we're only one generation away from losing our freedoms. It's part of our responsibility today just not to attend, but to make sure we pass that information on to those who come after us. I now would like to invite Councilmember Greg Rass to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Mayor Uri. This day, Memorial Day, means so much to my family. And you're talking about the generations. My father, part of the greatest generations, as they say, was a World War II attack pilot over in the European theater, the winner of the Distinguished Flying Cross, several air medals, 65 combat missions over in Europe. And growing up, I would listen to him and his brother's story. His brother was a B-17 pilot in World War II, and it's something I always wanted to do, to be a military pilot. So I followed in his footsteps and served in the United States Marine Corps for 30 years active duty as a pilot. And now my son is a major in the United States Marine Corps as an F-18 aviator himself. So we're doing our part to get all the generations into service. But this is an amazing day. We have a great crowd here today, and I thank you for all coming. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Marine Corps, fellow Marine. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce an individual who has served our country and community with dedication and honor. Sergeant Major Anthony Sammartino retired from the United States Marine Corps after serving as Marine Air Traffic Controller in locations around the globe. Infantry Company First Sergeant and Sergeant Major of 1st Marine Division while forces were deployed in Afghanistan. He has been decorated with the Combat Action Ribbon, Meritorious Service Medal, and the Legion of Merit. He is a career Marine and someone who has given back to his community through our Marine Corps Adoption Committee. It is now my honor to introduce Sergeant Major Anthony Sammartino.
Good morning, Mission Viejo, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and to all of you that have taken time out of your day to be here amongst the hero tributes in the Banner Garden. Where do we get such men and women? Where do they come from? Memorial Day events are rightly attended by veterans and their families, but there are also those that did not or could not serve that should know about service and the cost. They should know the story of service and how combat, as gruesome and ultimate as it may be, changes and also saves lives. There are people here today from different facets of life and come from different places. There are children and those with many years on them. Bruce. There are men and women, big and small. But we all have way more similarities than we do differences. The most notable is that we are all here today to honor the fallen, those that have given the ultimate sacrifice, so that we could live free. I am honored to be here with you today, and I'm humbled by the service of many of you in the audience. As you heard a little while ago, I took off my uniform 4 years ago, and I've only put it on a few times since. I am proud to wear it today, to be amongst you who recognize the loss and to honor the fallen. I served on active duty long enough to see the end of the Cold War, a quick victory in Iraq during Desert Storm, and years of training and preparation for a foe that is determined to crush our way of life. Years of training amongst the finest. They fly in Osprey helicopters and F-35 jet aircraft today. They ride in MRAP and armored vehicles, and they wear leather boots like their fathers before them who fought in wars that have made our way of life right. They have lived a life of extreme consequence. They've missed the births of their children, Little League games, holidays and anniversaries. But they've slept under the desert sky and looked at the same stars that we look at here. They've climbed the Tora Bora Mountains and walked on patrol along the Euphrates. They have changed a generation of would-be enemies and tried to teach them that the only true enemy is hate. They've opened schools where there were none, where young girls were not allowed to go. Their faith has guided them, and your patriotism and support has helped them through tough tours of boredom, frequently interrupted with gunfire, chaos, and death. Where do we get such men? That's a question often asked when heroic action is witnessed. In the 21st century, we as Americans know all too well the actions of terrorism. Just over a quarter of a century ago, though, we believed that terrorism was something that happened on foreign soil, yet it impacted us here as well. At about 0620, on the morning of October 23rd, 1983, a yellow Mercedes truck charged through the barbed wire fence around the American compound in Beirut, Lebanon, and plowed past 2 guard stations. It drove straight into the barracks and exploded. Eyewitnesses said that the force of the blast was so strong, it raised the building off its foundation into the air for a moment before crushing back down to the ground in a pancake of rubble, debris, and human remains. 220 United States Marines, 18 sailors, and 58 French paratroopers perished that day. FBI investigators at the time said it was the largest non-nuclear blast since World War II. Many of the wounded were taken to hospitals in Europe. Lance Corporal Jeff Nashton was one of those. He wound up in a hospital in Germany, and on the way to witness the destruction, the Commandant of the Marine Corps at the time, General P.X. Kelly, stopped at this hospital and went to visit Lance Corporal Nashton. Nashton was blind temporarily by the debris in his eyes. He was intubated and was on respirator. Later, the general would say that he had never seen a man with more tubes in his body. Nashton couldn't speak and could barely hear. And when they spoke to him and told him that the commandant was present, he thought he was being put on. The commandant of the Marine Corps to see me? He reached up and pulled the general's sleeve to his collar and felt them. 1, 2, 3, 4 silver stars. And tears came from his eyes underneath his bandages. And he motioned for something to write with, since he couldn't speak. They handed him the back of his own medical chart, and an aide broke out a pen, and he scribbled 2 words: Semper Fi. Semper Fidelis is the Marine Corps' Latin motto that means always faithful. Here is this young man, 20 years old at the time, who's lost almost everyone that he had served with and did not know whether he himself would survive his wounds. And he didn't write why or how dare you. He didn't blame anyone for putting him in harm's way. He didn't point his finger at his government. He said, I'm always faithful. Where do we get such men? Nashton wasn't the only Marine to cry at that moment. General Kelly excused himself from the room. And when approached by his aide a moment later, Kelly took his stars off his collar and said, go give them to Nashton. He's earned them. Where do we get such men? During battles in Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom, my units suffered irreplaceable losses of life and a whole lot of casualties. I remember in each memorial service in the battle space how warriors, young men and women, briefly paused to grieve the fallen and then stood and grabbed their weapons and went back to the fight so that the fallen had not died in vain. Where do we get such men? These events have given me a perspective on Memorial Day that I never knew before, and how it's meant to be spent. I gained a greater understanding of why it's more than just barbecues and picnics. It is our national holy day. Because like those who've gone before, we should believe that it's better to live one day as a lion than 1,000 days as a lamb. As I said, it's been a few years since I put the uniform on regularly, and since I served with these great men and women who risk it all every day. In the time since I took it off, I found that I learned a great many things about myself that I really knew when I was wearing it every day. I feel lucky to have served my country. A feeling that those who have not served will never know. I know things like the pure laughter that follows a tough ordeal, a really tough ordeal. The kind of laugh that you don't know where it comes from, but you have to let it out. The pain and the tears of loss for someone so instantaneously. I learned to appreciate life more than I ever could have before, because I know that there are those who no longer have lives to live, and that their sacrifice deserves us to live. And what I learned had less to do with war and much, much more to do with love. A true warrior friend of mine, Colonel Mark Smith, has shared with me his thoughts on war and the changes that have impacted his life since then. We're getting a little older, he says, and I know with certainty that never again will I be surrounded by such men accomplishing such feats. No, the only thing I know for sure is soon, and I suspect very soon, I will find myself beginning that warrior's road to slowly fading away and longing and wondering in my mind's eye, where has all the mayhem gone and where are my mad ghosts? For no man has ever been as honored as I to have served amongst these great warriors. I can't believe I shared space with these unbelievable men, these Marines. Where do they come from? A few weeks after General Kelly's trip to visit Lance Corporal Nashton, he checked on the Marine, who was doing much better, but had lost a tremendous amount of the people that he cared for. And he got a letter in the mail from a Marine who was discharged at the end of his service just 2 weeks prior to the event. A man who lost everyone in his platoon, which said, "My only regret is I wasn't there to be with them." Where do we get such men? Well, they come from small towns and big cities, from farmlands and bayous, from the islands of Hawaii and the hills of Kentucky, from Sacramento, California, and like Jeff Nashton, from Rome, New York. And they come from Mission Viejo. Sergeant Hunt. Sergeant Locke. Sergeant Major Sisa. Major Megan McClung. Major Megan McClung. Lance Corporal Daniel Santee. Lance Corporal Daniel Santee. Sergeant Kwok Bin Tran. Like many others, they're not here today to answer the roll. Remember them today and keep their spirit in your heart. What we have is precious, and we will always need those that are willing to risk it all so we can live free. Thank you, Mission Viejo, for honoring the fallen.
You know, Memorial Day is a day out of the year where we remember those who fell for this country. For some of us, it's just another day in the year. It's another day in the year when I always remember 6 of my fellow Navymen who were not able to share this day. Thank you, Tony, for your service and your inspiring words. Remind us of the meaning of this national holiday. But for some of us, it is just another day. Each of us have served has a unique experience. Every soldier who wears the uniform. And I'm happy to see some Navy bleached out white here today, too. Master Sergeant, I tried to get back in my uniform. That was it fell off of me. The next individual is a man whose path in life was dramatically altered by the draft. Mike Chamberlain was born to be a star. Anyone fortunate enough to know him and his amazing talents will tell you how true that is. In fact, he was on his way to a singing dream contract with Capitol Records when he took a fork in the road that sent him to war. Mike served his country in Vietnam with the 9th Infantry Division. And as a Vietnam combat veteran, it is my honor, it is my pleasure, it is my duty to introduce to you Mike Chamberlain.
Good morning, everybody. I think it's special that we remembered to remember today. I saw a cartoon in the paper this morning, and a father was trying to explain to his son that Memorial Day is more than a barbecue. And I think that we all can identify with that. I did serve in Vietnam in the 9th Infantry Division during the Tet Offensive in Vietnam in 1968-69. But I'm not so much here today to honor myself for Vietnam veterans or Korean veterans or Desert Storm veterans, although I do honor each and every one of you. I do. But there is a special group of veterans that hold a very special place in my heart. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this year marks the 75th anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attacks. Last year marked the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. We are losing 1,000 World War II veterans every day. If you were 20 in World War II, you're 90 today. We're going to lose them in the next 5 to 10 years. And before we go any further, could somebody bring up a singing microphone for me here in just a second? We're losing 1,000 World War II veterans every day. And I am fearful that we're going to forget about them when they pass. The schools are going to stop teaching World War II. World War II will just be this thing that happened. And I will not allow that to happen in my lifetime. And I didn't know what I could do to keep the memory of those that fought or served or died in World War II. Well, music has always been in my life, and the only way I can do it is musically. Some of the greatest love songs ever written came out of World War II. But before I sing you a couple of those great songs from World War II today, I brought something with you. When I think of World War II, I have 3 images in my mind. One of them is the United States Marines hoisting the flag at Hiroshima. You can see it in your head. The second is an aerial shot looking down on the USS Arizona that had just been struck. And smoke was rising off the ship, and that's when World War II really went into high gear. Well, the third image of World War II I brought with me today. May I share it with you? How many of you remember this? This was 70 years ago last year. It took place, this photo did, it was the cover of Life magazine in 1945. And they had just announced that Japan had surrendered. It was considered the end of World War II, and everybody started kissing everybody. I sang at a senior center a month or so ago, and a woman jumped up and she goes, "Mike, I was there that day. I was just down the street." She said, "I was a 17-year-old nurse in training," and she goes, "It's true. Everybody started kissing everybody." She said, "I must have kissed 1,000 boys that day." And then she said she realized what she had done, and she went home and washed her mouth out with rubbing alcohol. That's her story. It's her story. Well, some of the most beautiful love songs of all time came out of the early 1940s and the call to arms. I'm going to sing a couple for you today, if I could. Wonderful, beautiful music. Thank you. I like getting the applause up front. That's always helped. Absolutely astonishing, beautiful songs came out of the 1940s. Songs that 70 years later, believe it or not, they're still playing on the radio today. And I wonder if there is a more beautiful one than this. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. There'll be joy and laughter and peace ever after tomorrow when the world is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. I was a TV news anchor my whole life. I spent 40 years on television, and I retired about 7 or 8 years ago. And I've always had music in my life, so I had a little chat with the Lord. I said, you know, you've given me music, do with me what you will. And I thought maybe I could do 2 or 3 concerts a month. Wouldn't that be fun? Well, this month I have 36 concerts. I have 3 more today. But I've done over 2,000 concerts since I retired, and the best one that I ever did took place it was last October. I sang at a World War II reunion on board the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. I had goosebumps all night. You know, the Queen Mary was a luxury liner, but she was converted into a troop transport in World War II. 2,000 at a time, she would carry those soldiers back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean in World War II. And so that day, I sang in the Grand Ballroom on the Queen Mary. There must have been 1,000 people there, the World War II veterans, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. And some of the World War II veterans that night were actually wearing their uniforms from World War II. And I stopped an elderly man and his wife as I was walking out, and I said, "Sir, I got to tell you, I'm somewhat impressed that you can still fit into that uniform." And without missing a beat, his wife looked at me and she goes, "We had to let it out." She wouldn't let him have his moment. Well, I tell you this story because I sang this next song on the Queen Mary that night, and they had a spotlight on me, and I couldn't see much of the audience, but below the spotlight, I could see the first couple rows of table. And as I started to sing, a woman started weeping uncontrollably, crying out loud. And after the concert, I actually sought her out. And I put my arm around her and I said, "Sweetheart, I couldn't help but notice you were crying during that song." And she said, "Mike, that song represents the best and the worst of my life." She said it was the best because she said I was married to the most wonderful man on earth. But it was the worst because he was killed in 1943 in France. She reminded me, and I'll remind you, that life isn't all good and it's not all bad. She said, you accept the good along with the bad. And when you do that, eventually, she said, that will define your life. And what an interesting way to look at it all. So I tell you this story because this is the song I sang that night on the Queen Mary that brought this woman to tears. You'll never know just how much I miss you. You'll never know just how much I care. And if I tried, I still couldn't hide my love for you. You ought to know, for haven't I told you so? A million or more times you went away and my heart went with you. I speak your name in my every prayer. If there were some other way to prove that I love you, I swear I don't know how. You'll never know if you don't know now. You'll never know if you don't know now. How many, thank you so much. How many World War II veterans are out there? Can you raise your hands for me? I know they're here. I know they're here. I see them. Bless your heart. As a Vietnam soldier myself, I ultimately salute you that fought and served and those that died in World War II. It's because of you, in my humble opinion, that we have everything that we have today, our freedoms, our luxuries, and our opportunities. I have a little booth over here. If the World War II veterans can make their way over to me, I've got a little commemorative something I'd like to give you before you leave today. My honor to be with you. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless America, everybody.
We are here keeping America's promise, which is to remember our fallen warriors. We will never forget. Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain, for sharing with us today. We thank you for your service and your continued efforts to support our military by keeping promises alive through your music. And thank you to each and every one here today for joining us in honoring the sacrifice of so many. The losses weigh heavy in our hearts, but the way these soldiers lived in their lives inspire us every day. Everyone has a story. I know that we have dedicated people here today who have served. If all of our active military will please stand. And now, will our veterans please stand? God bless America. And now our veterans, and to the families of those soldiers that didn't come back, we salute you. We thank you for your service, and we hold you dear in our heart. Please stand. Please stand, and Mike is going to lead us in God Bless America.
This song was written by Irving Berlin long before World War II, but he gave it to us, he unveiled it in the early 1940s, and Irving Berlin never wanted a penny to be made commercially from the song God Bless America. Never has a cent been raised. Every cent ever raised from God Bless America has gone to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts of America in perpetuity forever. Isn't that amazing? Well, how much vision can one man have? Thank you, Mr. Berlin. Before we sing God Bless America, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to be silent for about 15 or 20 seconds, and I want you to, in your own minds, take that time of silence to think about those that gave everything so we have what we have today. And then I'll ask you to join me in singing God Bless America. Let's remember them. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet
Thank you, Mike. Okay. We're winding down, but one thing that I thought would be important is to share something that my friend Mike Soto, who is with the Honorable Organization, he shared this with me. There shall be picnics and music. There shall be politicians shaking hands and giving speeches. There shall be flags waving. But in the silence of a cemetery, there shall be a lone wife touching a cold stone with the love and sorrow that only she can understand. There shall be tears so precious the angels shall hear them when they touch the ground. And it shall be thunder in heaven. Of all things Memorial Day is said to be, please remember this. For every fallen hero, for every stone of white, for every folded flag, there is a mother, a father, a wife, a husband, a brother, and a sister that hopes no one ever forgets. God bless our troops, our fallen, our veterans, and the families of all, for freedom is not free and we'll never forget. As we come to a close, I'd like to leave you with the following quote: "To live in the hearts of those who love is never to die." God bless you all. Now, if you have some small children with you, please prepare them for the 3 loud rifle bursts following taps. Our young Marines volunteering their services today will lead you through the banner garden behind us to our reception in the Saddleback room for coffee and light refreshments. So as soon as that's complete, you can go in silence, go through the banner garden. Thank you very much.